We have a little job for some of you in the audience. Some of you, and it was completely randomized, received on your way into this room a small packet, I can hear some of you opening it, of 6 or so Lego pieces. What we'd like you to do, we're gonna put a minute on the clock, is you have a minute, those of you who got them randomly, it's about 100 people who got them. Your job is to make a duck. That's it, make a duck. Don't look at other people making ducks. Don't share. Make a duck by yourself with these Legos, and people will be in the aisles to collect them. You have 1 minute to make a duck. Ready? Go. Remember, no sharing. We want you to make a duck by yourself. Five, 4, 3, 2. Okay, you all done? Did you make your ducks? Okay, now we're gonna get them collected. There'll be folks in the aisles to collect them. This is a sort of very weird form of church that's just taken over. Please hand your ducks to the aisle while we welcome from the Wharton School, Dr. David Robertson.
You good? You get them back later. Don't worry. Those of you who don't want to give up the ducks, you get them back later. But we just want to display them. You ready? Okay. Okay, so I study the management of innovation. I study how to make companies more consistently, successfully innovative. And you know, when we think about management in companies, I think sparks of brilliance are actually overrated. I think sparks of brilliance are the easy part. That what's hard is to turn those sparks of brilliance into profitable innovation. And so I want to talk about that today, and I want to talk about it in the context of Lego. This building exercise was kind of to get you in the mood. I wrote a book about Lego because I think it's an interesting way to talk about a subject that I study, which is, you know, how do you make companies more continuously successfully innovative? And what do you do to encourage the right kinds of sparks of brilliance, and how do you manage them once you have them? Because Lego is a company that's never suffered from a lack of brilliance. I mean, from the very first days when they came up with the brick and the knobs and the tubes and the way of attaching it, to what I think is their crowning achievement, the idea that it's not a toy, but a system of play. That these sets should interlock with each other, and that you should be able to buy multiple sets and have them work together so that when you add another set, you're multiplying the possibilities of what you can do with Lego. And so Lego continued to grow from its early days and add more toys, Bionicles, and the Mindstorms robotics set, and the partnership with LucasArts to do the Lego Star Wars. And they've had sparks of brilliance throughout. What's interesting about Lego, though, is that in 2003, those sparks of brilliance almost burned down the company. 10 years ago, Lego almost went out of business, almost went bankrupt because of the way they managed innovation. But they turned things around, they changed the way they managed the company, and since 2007, they've been growing sales at 24% per year, and profits at 40% per year, every year for the last 5 years, because of the way they manage innovation. And so I want to talk about that. And I'll start from the beginning. Lego was founded in 1932 by a carpenter named Ole Kirk Christensen. And it was during the Depression. He couldn't get enough wood to make furniture, so he started making toys. He started with this duck, was an early favorite. And it did pretty well, and he continued to grow. He made a big, risky investment in 1946 to buy an injection molding machine and started experimenting with plastic toys the following year. They tried different things. They tried the brick. The control of the company passed to his son, Godfrey Kirk Christensen, who patented the brick in 1958 and with that pattern of knobs on the top and tubes on the bottom. And then the company continued to grow steadily and well. And then the grandson of the founder, a guy named Kjell Kirk Christensen, took over in the late 70s and unleashed this set of innovations that fundamentally changed the company and made it the Lego that we know today. One of those innovations was Duplo. So Duplo is, of course, the bigger bricks for smaller hands, right? So you can give it to toddlers and you don't have to worry about them swallowing it. It existed before, but he put a lot of marketing and development effort behind it. And that let Lego reach younger kids. At the other end, kids were leaving Lego around age 10 or 11 or 12 and going to other toys. And he thought, if I make a more sophisticated set, something with axles and gears and motors, then teenagers will play with Lego. And for the most part, that failed, but he did find a group of 25 to 55-year-old men that loved it, and so it continues to do well. But I think Kjell Kirk's big innovation, Lego's big innovation under Kjell Kirk, was this, the minifigure. You know, those of us 45 and older had a very different play experience with Lego than those of you 40 and younger, because we didn't have that minifigure. And that minifigure really personalizes the play experience. This is one of the first ones from 1978, because you can kind of immerse yourself in the play experience. But I think it did something much more profound, actually, that the whole idea of a system of play, of a set of sets that work together, changed dramatically. In the 70s, Lego had some very popular toys. This was the family on the left, which was about 12 bricks tall and wouldn't fit in the train and towered over the house like some 50s monster movie. After the minifigure was introduced, they rescaled everything around the minifigure so that, you know, even these fantasy sets, another innovation that came before Kjell Kirk, it was all kind of present day stuff. But these sets, they work together, and to this day, you know, if Harry Potter gets in trouble, then, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi or Indiana Jones can come help him out. I mean, these sets work and fit together, and so the system of play idea expanded even further. And Lego went on this golden growth period for 15 years. They doubled in size every 5 years for 15 years. They expanded geographically. They put out different themes. But then in 1993, they hit kind of a flat period, you know, where sales stagnated. And so they wanted to get the growth back, so they started putting out more and more toys to try and get, you know, restart things. But it didn't work, and so you can imagine what happened to their cost structure, right? It went up, and so their profits went down, and they had their first loss in company history in 1998. They had to lay off 1,000 people. This is in a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, Denmark, you know, where this really was wrenching for the family. The grandson of the founder, Kjell Kirk, you know, he'd been running the company for 20 years, and he stepped aside. He said, maybe I'm not the right person to lead Lego into the next generation. And so he stepped aside. He brought in a turnaround expert, a guy named Paul Plowman, who had just turned around Bang & Olufsen, the Danish high-end consumer electronics maker. And Paul did what we in business schools say you should do, which is to go out and really look at what's happening in the market. And because Lego's market, like a lot of other markets in the late 90s, was changing fairly dramatically, that kids were getting older, younger, that they were leaving traditional toys, not just Lego, but, you know, Barbie, Hot Wheels, the others, and moving to things like Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo. The distribution channel had changed fairly dramatically. It was no longer mom and pop stores, but really big, sophisticated retailers that knew more about why kids were buying and parents were buying Lego than Lego did. And also, a lot of other toys that you could buy had moved their production to China, and so were getting cheaper. But meanwhile, the Danish kroner, Lego was still being made in high-cost Denmark, and the Danish kroner was appreciating against the dollar. So in the biggest market, the US, other toys were getting less expensive while Lego was getting more expensive. And all the patents expired on the brick in the 80s, so anybody could make a Lego brick, a Lego-compatible brick. And a lot of companies started doing it. This is what my colleagues in strategy refer to as a really shitty industry. And so Lego did what we say you should do, which is to innovate. This is their new mission statement that came out in February 2000. We want the Lego brand to become the world's strongest brand among families with children by 2005. And they just started innovating. They signed a partnership with LucasArts to do Lego Star Wars. They came out with this toy, Galador, this kind of action hero, and they commissioned a TV show to build the story, to build kind of their own intellectual property, kind of like Star Wars. And they commissioned a video game, and they had electronics in the toy. If you watched the TV show or played the video game with the toy, it would talk back to the TV show or the video game. They explored new directions in the toddler market. They created these electronic toys, a music roller or a story builder that would tell different stories if you put cards in different orders. They partnered with Steven Spielberg so you could do movies with your Lego, and they had add-on sets so you could do scary movies or dramas or action movies. They expanded their network of theme parks. You know, most theme parks are catering toward teenagers, whereas Legolands are more toward the 6 to 10-year-old demographic. And so they opened up new theme parks in the UK and the US and Germany. They partnered with a company to do after-school education centers. Lego's a great way to teach science and technology and engineering and math, and opened up 300 education centers in Korea alone, as well as Japan and other countries. They found that a lot of kids actually don't like construction toys. So they created a whole line of toys called Jack Stone that you could snap together in a few minutes and start playing with. And there was a whole backstory to Jack Stone. He was a hero that saved the day in many different ways. They even tried to disrupt Lego. They created a virtual building experience called Lego Digital Designer, where you could grab pieces from a pallet, put them together online, and actually build with Lego without any plastic bricks. And so by any dimension in this experimentation period from 99 to 2002, they became a very innovative company, just spinning off one big idea after another. And it all worked until it didn't. What happened was that Lego, in this urge to kind of explore new directions, had ended up with a lot of businesses that weren't really that Lego-y. You know, this toy, this Explore toy, might have worked for another company, but parents would see it with the Lego brand and see a toy that didn't have any construction as part of it, and they get kind of confused or walk away. Or Lego got itself into businesses it didn't understand. The TV show that went along with the Galador toy, I looked this up on IMDb. Nobody who acted in that TV show ever acted in anything ever again. It was stunningly bad. And even the successes ended up backfiring on Lego. Lego had 3 big successes during that period. One was Lego Star Wars, Lego Harry Potter, and Bionicles. But the thing is, Lego Star Wars and Harry Potter, Lego didn't really understand how to manage the cyclical nature of licensed intellectual properties. And those properties would do really well in years in which there was a movie, but in years in which there wasn't, they'd fall much lower. And so there was a Star Wars movie in '99 and 2002, a Harry Potter movie in 2001 and 2002, no movie from either franchise in 2003 or the first half of 2004, and Lego almost went bankrupt. They were running out of cash. They had no committed lines of credit. They were very close to bankruptcy. And so they sold off their headquarters building. They moved the management into an unused corner of the factory. They borrowed some money. They kind of barely stayed alive. And they began to look at how to reorganize the company, to how to save the company. And one thing they did learn during that experimentation period is that, for Lego at least, the virtual doesn't disrupt the physical. That if kids play with Lego Star Wars, Lego Batman online, they actually want more bricks, not less. And so they went back to the brick and tried to explore how can we get more toys from our core business and build around that. And that actually led to a big debate in the company, because one of the things that had happened is in their quest for innovation, in their demand for new play experience ideas, the number of pieces in their inventory, the number of shapes and colors in their inventory had exploded. And on the one hand, the designers were saying, we really need all these shapes and colors if we're going to do the cool toys that the market is asking for. And on the other side, the manufacturing and supply chain people were saying, it's killing us. You know, we can't handle all this complexity. We got to cut it in half. And what swung the debate was actually a guy who's now head of IT, Henrik Weiss-Olbeck, brought into the management meeting these displays. He'd taken from current sets 8 different policemen, 3 different bad guys, 3 different chefs, And he said, these are all different pieces. There's different production instructions. You have to put the right head on the right body. If one runs out, you can't swap them around. And this is variety without value. In fact, what he found is that designers were actually designing themselves in the Lego minifigures. They were immortalizing themselves in Lego. And so they did cut the number of pieces in half. And more than that, they put a group around them, around this inventory called the Design Lab. 3 really cranky old guys with 100 years experience. And if you're a designer in Lego now, you have to, if you want a new shape or color, you have to get it by these guys. And they're not only going to give you a hard time about it, they're going to ask you what shape or color you're going to remove from the inventory to add your new one. So they're putting a lot of control and constraints around that. And they called together the 600 people that work in development, product development. And Mads Nipper, the head of product development, held up this fire truck. And he said, this is where Lego started to go bad, 1997. It wasn't a great fire truck. But this is where we really hit bottom, the Jack Stone fire truck. This is not a Lego toy. This is not who we are. This is who we are. And he held up the fire truck. This was in 2004 that he did this talk. This fire truck came out the next year. And he said, this is who we are. This is Lego. This looks like a Lego toy. The other one, the Jack Stone, looks like a spaceship. We will never do something like that again. This fire truck was made out of universal pieces, pieces that could be used in lots of different sets, so could be produced in higher volume. And so this was a much more profitable toy for Lego. And he challenged all of his designers to do more with this limited palette of pieces. He said, if we can do it with the fire truck, you can do it for your part. I think this fire truck, this kit number 7239, is the most important kit in Lego's history because it became a symbol inside the company of how do you do more with less? How do you innovate within the constraints that we have to live with if we're going to survive as a company? And every group was asked, what is your fire truck? How do you do more in this constrained environment? There's lots of other ways in which they kind of focused and directed their people. The Galador toy, this was approved back in 2000 and 2001 by a management team saying that, this is going to be a great toy. Let's go for it. Let's invest in it. Let's get the TV show going. And of course, it was an expensive disaster. Lego, I think, has become much more humble about its ability to predict what 7-year-old kids will really like. And so their process now is they start very differently. They don't invent things in Billund and dump them out into the market, but instead they start with these sketches, very evocative sketches of scenes. And they ask kids to start telling stories. And if kids can tell a lot of stories, then they know they have something. And kids love the one on the left here with these ninjas having adventures. Lego has this wonderful phrase that there's only 2 groups of honest people in the world, kids and drunks. Kids will never lie to you about whether a toy is going to be fun or not. And so they love this idea of ninjas. And they started exploring that. And the first question that came out is, if ninjas are the good guys, who are the bad guys? And so they came back to the kids. And they said, well, is it monkeys or lizard people or robots? And kids had, they're very clear. They had this logic that ninjas were real historical figures. So it couldn't be something like a robot or a lizard. It had to be a skeleton. The feedback was very clear. And so they came back and they sketched and they said, well, what kind of skeleton? And they ended up with the whole story of Lord Garmadon battling the battling the ninjas, and this became a huge hit toy. They had a cartoon show. They finally got that right. They had a whole thing called spinjitzu. The way they do battle is you spin the tops around and one of them knocks the other off. And there's training programs online, and there's contests at the Lego store, and this thing became a huge hit. It was tremendously successful. And Lego does lots of things like this now. There's lots of constraints that if you're a Lego designer in 2001, you were told to come in and create a great play experience. The sky's the limit. Think outside the box. Think outside the brick. Now, if you go into Lego, you're told to create a great police station or a great fire truck. And you have process and rules and tools and structure and other things to guide you. And I gave you a similar, or Andrew gave you a similar kind of challenge with your ducks. And let's see what you did. I gave you 6 pieces and asked you to build a duck. Can we put the camera on that? And here are your ducks. Some more duck-like than others. You can see there's a snot builder. The bad boys of the Lego world are the snot builders. Studs not on top. But you can see that I gave you about the most constrained innovation task I could think of. 1 minute, 6 pieces, build a duck. And look at the variety, look at the creativity. It didn't ruin it at all. In fact, this challenge, this channel, this focus and direction actually led to an amazing amount of creativity by you. And that's what Lego learned, is that by putting focus and direction around innovation, that's how you turn sparks of brilliance into profitable innovation. And so Lego now is putting focus and direction around all its teams. And because of that, they're growing sales at 24% and profits at 40% every year for the last 5 years. Now, that may sound like kind of a dour and depressing message, that we should have more focus and direction, because often companies get that wrong, right? I mean, giving your teams the space to be creative, but also the focus and direction so they can deliver something that's appropriate for the brand and profitable for the company, that's a hard balance. And a lot of companies get it wrong and put too much focus and direction on it. But if Lego hadn't done that, you know, my kids were 3 and 5 in 2003. And if Lego hadn't done that, you know, they might have gone out of business, and I could have never bought myself, I mean, my kids, the police station, the other toys that they enjoyed, that I enjoyed, that I got to see them play. And if Lego had gone a bit out of business, I would have missed some of their sparks of brilliance. So thank you.